Okay, so this is WordPress 5.8 Tatum, and as you can see, I'm going to have to minimize, kill the chat and participants. So I got my other little slides off to the left side. So that's Art Tatum, and WordPress has been naming a jazz great, for every one of their releases that they've done. I think they're up to almost like 45 or more at this point. But Art Tatum was blind in his left eye, and he had severe vision issues in his right eye. And he's considered to be the greatest jazz pianist in the 1940s. So that being said, let's go check out what we got. We have a 5.8 added major updates, those being migrating widgets to blocks, changes in the block editor, and new blocks and image changes with duotone and WebP images. There's a lot to cover under this, and we'll do the best we can to get through everything. I'm going to be doing this mostly on demos. And also, if we get a chance, we'll take a look at full site editing. It's in beta. It's a little bit rocky. I've had to blow up one site already just to see if I could get things working on that. So let me just jump into the next slide deck. And we can. Okay. So yes, that's me in the middle. Sorry. There's my email address if you need to reach me. And I can say that as a recording engineer and mixer for many years, too many years actually, in Los Angeles and New York, and also built software for music production companies. Now I'm building WordPress websites and hosting and maintaining them. I wanted to show this because this is where WordPress was from like 2007 to 2017 for almost 10 years, from the version 2.2 up to 4.9. It's a very standard thing that you can see. There's the classic editor with the content right dead smack in the middle of the page. You had the themes handling the header and the footer, the top and the bottom, and you had widgets that came in around this time, and the widgets were for the sidebar or the footer area down below. And that was working for 10 years. And then when 2018 came along, WordPress 5.0, then we got the block editor. And this was Gutenberg. I know it's Gutenberg. I'm just going to call it the block editor as best I can all through the rest of this. And this was a change. And they had 8 WordPress releases during this time between now and March 2021. And this is a little over 2 years to get the block editor working to a point where everything was working well with it. In July 2021, which is 5.8 came out, it was almost 4 weeks ago now. We started to get blocks in the sidebar and blocks in the footer area below. And this was actually things that actually changed. You didn't have a chance to opt out of it, but you got the blocks. And I've actually done a test. I'm going to run a test for you to see how you can actually make some of the changes that you might have had struggled with at this time. But by and large, it's been working very well for the blocks for me. I'm not sure about how other people have handled it. We can discuss that a little later. So in the future, what's coming up? Well, we know what's coming up. We just don't know when. And so December 2021, WordPress 5.9 is scheduled to be released. And the question is, how far along are they going to get? The idea is to get blocks everywhere on the entire page. And so blocks in the header, blocks in the footer. And even so, they'll have template blocks going into the block editor, both top and bottom of the block editor. And at some point, you'll just have a full template block. So you get a block, everybody gets a block in this. And this is a very, very big change for this. And getting this to have a roadmap, I don't think it's not going to happen all at 5.9. I would say that if they get it done by the end of next year, that would be great. I may be wrong, but we'll see how that goes. So anyway, we're going to talk about the one change that actually occurred, which is the migration of the widgets to blocks. And this is now the default when you upgrade it to WordPress 5.8. And we migrate the widgets to what they call legacy blocks. And this is one of the first steps that are going to get into full site editing. And down at the bottom, there's a link to, if you have to, this is a classic widgets block. So if you didn't like what it did, you can always install this plugin and it'll take it back to the widgets. I recommend if you don't need it, just go ahead and get this block set up and ready to go. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to stop the share. I'm not going to stop the share. I'm just going to jump to the site. That is here. I'm using the Brave browser. And I imagine that everybody can see at this point. So anyway, so is this a good time to do questions? Anybody have a question at this point before we jump into this?
Mary Ellen?
Hi, yes. I was just trying to get clarity. Is full site editing the same as using a page builder and editing a front end?
It's the ideas of front end, but full site editing is based on the block editor. It's not based on the page builder. The theme has to be ready for this. And to be honest with you, right now, there's only 16 themes in the WordPress repository under themes. Out of the 4,200, there's 16 that are actually active for setting up full site editing. I'm going to show some of those at the end. It's a different animal, but the idea is to get blocks, not necessarily your page builder of choice. You can still continue using your page builder. It's not a problem, but this is the idea to get the blocks into everything.
Okay,
So,
I'm just not really clear with what full site editing is.
full site edit is if you are you using the block editor?
I don't know. I'm using a page builder. I
Which
mean, I
page?
have WordPress. What's it called? WP Bakery.
Okay, yeah, that is a page builder. So
Yeah.
if you continue to use that, you can continue to use that, but the full site editing is all based around Gutenberg and the block editor only.
Okay.
So that's kind of where this is going. And, you know, the whole goal of WordPress at this point is to get everything into the block editor. You know, page builders you can still use. You know, if the theme can make you know, blocks in the areas like the headers and footers, that's great. We don't know. I don't think I've seen any page builder come across and say, hey, we're going to do a theme that's going to be related to the block editor yet. It's too early at this point for them to actually make those decisions. So okay.
My page builder has. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
My page builder lets me add blocks like a text block and a headline block. Isn't that what block editing is?
Well, you said you're using a page builder. That's their version of a editor. You know, I use Elementor and they have the same kind of thing. I can put in an Elementor heading and an Elementor text block, but it's not the block editor that is part of the WordPress directly. It's not baked in. I hate to use the word baked when you're talking about WP Bakery, but it's not baked into the actual WordPress core, which is what the editor does.
Built in.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that they're similar, and I get that Gutenberg is separate from my page builder is on top of Gutenberg.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking about Gutenberg. You know, and
Okay.
as I mentioned, it was originally called Gutenberg. They've said, no, well, they still call it in that way. Sometimes the way the project is, there is a Gutenberg plugin, which I don't recommend you use now unless you're a beta tester. But right now they're calling everything a block and use the block editor. And they're referencing that to everything that's in WordPress without using WP Bakery, Elementor, Beaver Builder, or any of the number of page builders that are out there. So, and again, there's no theme yet that I've seen come from any of the page builder areas to actually set that up. It'd be interesting to find out, but anyway. I hope that answers it. I know it's a little tough to wrap your head around which editor am I actually using, you know? So, okay. So I want to show here, I'm in a.
Sorry, before you continue, Doug Noyle's got a question too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize I still had my hand up. I was just going to reference if you could say what you mean by everything. In other words, I think Mary Ellen needs to hear that full site editing means that the block editor will allow you to edit the footer and the header.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just like a page builder.
Yeah. Well, some page builders, but yeah. So there's this little split that is happening between page builders and the block editor. And you can use both of them, not simultaneously on the same page, but you can use parts of them as you need. This is a difficult thing that WordPress is trying to put together, which is why it's taken so far 2.5 years to get to this point. And I think they got another year to go at least to get all things into blocks. And by blocks, I mean WordPress blocks. And so I haven't heard anything from any of the page builders about what their plans are in that regard. They've made plans, but nobody's talking about the full site editing. When full site editing is the WordPress version of getting blocks everywhere. Headers, footers, templates, all these template parts. Okay. Okay, so I can move ahead here or?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so I'm in WordPress. I'm going to show up here. So this is 5.7.3, not 5.8. And I want to show the widgets. These are the widgets that I have set up on this temporary site that I'm using. And I'm using the 2021 theme, and this is the bottom of the 2021 theme, and this is the widgets that they have. You can see there's a bunch of things on this one, and this is I put this in dark mode just to make it a little easier on everybody's eyes. You can see there's 4 widgets here, and the first 3 go across the column, and then there's the 4th one that wraps in below everything here. So these are the ones we're going to get moved into the legacy blocks, or even better, the real blocks. And this is the footer that you've seen, before, and navigation and gallery. Okay, so I'm going to just go back and update now. And this is the page where you do the normal update. And I want to point out one thing here. This here, make sure when you get back and you're looking at this, you take a look at this and make sure that this is set the way you want. I'm setting mine to say that it's only going to be updated automatically on security and maintenance releases. For releases, which was 5.7 and 5.8 and to come 5.9, I've said I want to be able to handle that myself. So you have to read this little section to make sure that you're on the same page. I found that I had 5 sites that actually were turned on to actually update the all new versions of WordPress, and they were all parts of the sites that I had built in the last since the beginning of the year. All the other sites didn't, so I know there was some kind of change somewhere along the line where this actually changed. So just take a look at where you're at on this. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and let's update and hop this up, and I see it spinning up there, which is good. And here we are now, same site, 5.8.1. Don't pay attention to 5.7 and 5.57 here. We are actually on 5.8.1. Okay, so I want to go back and take a look, and I'm going to refresh the page here. The same site looks exactly the same, and that's what it should do. And so if we go back now to the appearance and look at the widgets area, we can see it's a very different animal. This is now the widgets area there, and you can see down at the bottom they have, I can't quite show it on my screen here, but there's inactive widgets below this. So what you're looking at is a legacy widget. If I hover over this, you can see it says a legacy widget. This is also, if I hover over this, you can see this little pop-up and says this is a legacy widget. These, in other words, have basically put a wrapper around the actual widgets. It's a block editor wrapper around these. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just turn these into actual blocks. Now, I can't do this one because this is a navigation menu, and the navigation block is not going to be released until the next version, 5.9. So, but I can do it here. And it's going to say move to widget area. I'm just going to actually, oh, this is the one I have to actually do a new one. So what I need to do is pull out here, and you can see that all this stuff is legacy widgets up here. So I'm going to select here, and I'm going to get something up in the top, and I'm going to say heading, I'm going to just put in the word gallery. And then I'm going to get another thing in here, and I'm just typing in with the slash. Slash gives me a list here. And so I'm going to just type in gallery, and I'm going to actually upload. There's not much to upload, so I'm going to make it a little change. Oops, sorry, I'm going to go to media library. I'm going to select this, one of this, and then one of this guy, and add these to the new gallery. So I have that, and now I have this gallery, and I can lose this gallery. So I'll come over here, and I'm going to remove this block. And here, interestingly enough, this one says convert to blocks because it knows there's a title and it knows that there's content. So I'm just going to say, yes, go ahead and convert, which it did. It turned this into an H2 for the title, and it kept the text here. And there is also a legacy block for here. So I'm just going to click here. I'm doing a thing with the key command, just adding a line above. Except they did that one wrong. Hold on, let me get rid of that one. I'm just doing this and getting a slash, and I'm going to type in search because there is a search block, and I'm going to get rid of this. So now I have everything here is turned into blocks with the exception of this. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to update. Interesting thing is that you've never had to update the widgets area of your themes, but now you do because these are blocks. So now I'm going to come over here and take a look, and you can see it's going to look a little broken, and I'll show you why. So let me refresh. And you can see what gallery did, the type here, and then I have the gallery blocks here. We have some text here. We drop this in over here. And what it's doing is it's taking each individual block and setting it up as if it was a specific widget. So the easiest way to fix that is to come back and actually wrap these things into what's called a group. So I've selected the top one here in gallery. I'm going to shift click the bottom one, and you can see they changed. They're both here. I'm going to set them up as a group and so wrap those together. Same thing here. I'm going to click into this text, click into here, set this up as a group, which I did. And I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to move it up and put it in underneath the content block here. So I got this one, and they're both selected. I'm going to turn this into a group. So now if you take a look, we have 3 groups. Before they were just all legacy blocks. And so there's a legacy widget, a search. There's a second group, which has the heading and the gallery, and the third group, which has the heading and the paragraph. So we're going to update. And now we're going to go back over to this, and this is going to shift around. And you can see it makes a very nice looking set of widgets. You can see that the search folded up under here because it's on the same in the same group. This is in the same group here, and this is in the same group here. So I would recommend, if you can, use the actual block editor to get this into this, because you can do better in styling and better in managing what shows up where. Okay. So if there's any questions here at this point of this.
No, doesn't look like any.
Okay.
Wait.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. How do I? Okay. Anyway, I'm going to talk. I don't know how to raise my hand. I just want to add something that I think is pertinent. If people are using Genesis themes, those themes have a lot of blocks along the front. The older ones do. The new ones don't. But the older ones have blocks along the home page. And that's how you built your website, was using those blocks. They have, their latest version of Genesis has something that suppresses blocks on the home page. So your website won't change at all. You could still go in and edit it the way you used to, going to appearance widgets, and it'll look like the same one that you had before. But that's just the Genesis theme. So I can't talk about others, but I know a lot of people do use that theme company. So
Marianne, moving forward with this, then what are their plans in that regard?
well, for the past probably 2 years, Genesis has not been producing themes that have the blocks on the home page. They've been trying to get people away from that. And I have some older sites that still do.
Okay.
So I haven't changed those up. I'm leaving them.
Okay.
Well, Genesis has archived all their older themes. So WP Engine, which is the Genesis parent now, they only support 10 themes going forward.
Right.
Hmm.
But they're
So-
old themes. If you've used the old theme, you've built a website with it, customer likes it, they don't want to change it, it's okay.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying that going forward with the idea of being aware of the changes to full site editing, WP Engine has archived all their themes except for 10.
Right.
And those are the 10 that they are saying that going forward they will support, and those will become the themes that become whatever they become with relation to full site editing,
Mhm.
which is a smart move because it'd be impossible to modify 300 or 400 themes to become, full site editors.
Right.
Yeah.
So Doug, Dean here, I've got a question.
Sure.
I understand how the grouping works, although I've not used it personally, and why that makes sense to organize things and move things around. But just kind of curious, in a text block, that much like you had one of the first things you did there is took the title and the body
Right.
text and converted that into 2 blocks and then grouped them.
Yes.
What is the advantage of doing that versus just keeping it in one block and just have a paragraph that's H2, a paragraph that's normal, a paragraph that's H3, and so on?
Well, for this area here, it was important to get it into a group. You were talking about this and this. This was the heading text, and this was the text, like a paragraph text. Because if you didn't do this in the widget area with the blocks themselves, these two would show separate. This would show up as this thing right here, and then this one would show up down over here. The idea of grouping it is that it makes it a unit. It's like, you order something from Amazon, you order some toothpaste and you order some ink cartridges. It shows up in a container, in a one box. So, they're not sending you 2 things that get split up. You can actually not have to use groups. And I think groups are great to manage because it's like a section. If you use a page builder, it's like using a section or a row in Beaver Builder, section in Elementor, a variety of things. Be able to manipulate it and say, this is a group of things that I want to, if I'm going to move this around, I want to move this around as a group, as opposed to trying to move individual things around. So I use the group a lot.
It becomes important when you start talking about responsiveness, because if you move that view screen around, it starts moving each of those blocks around. And if they're independent blocks, then it puts them wherever it wants. But if they're a group, that's a unit. So it moves that unit together. So here's some text and the paragraph. If they get stacked together in the same place, not and that's a key thing.
Right. Like if I actually, I'm going to see if I can actually do this. Let's see. So if I take this down and see if we can stack this, you can actually see that this grouped here, this grouped there, and this grouped here, and it folds in pretty nicely because they're all based in that area. Now, they would have stacked fine this because this would have followed this. But it wouldn't have worked fine on the desktop because this would have been here and this would have shoved down over here into the bottom here because it was a different element, so to speak. This was a different block.
Yeah, and
I use groups a lot. They're really
that all makes good sense. The core question is that group that's a title and some body text.
Yes.
Is 2 blocks that are grouped together.
Yes.
Why wouldn't one block that has a title in it as well as body text behave the same, or would it?
Well, there is a classic editor block, which you could possibly do that with, but you know, I do recommend keeping these. If I degroup these, and if I can actually, let me actually get back to the page here, and I'm going to take the grouping out. You can as easy as you can make a group, it's just as easy to degroup, I guess, or ungroup. So I selected here, and I selected here. And if I go up here to the little options table, there's a, oh, wait a minute, why is it telling me I can't do that? Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go to the block here. So this is, I'm in a group. Okay, let me actually show. So I'm in the group itself right here. Okay, and the heading and the paragraph. And if I go back to the group, I can actually come in here and I could say ungroup. And now I took the group out. And if you come up here, you can see that's now the heading and paragraph directly. Okay. And if I update, and if I go back over here, this will stay here. This is going to get shoved down over here because it has lost its bearings, so to speak. They belong together, so they need a group. This is for the widget area. This may not apply at all to when you're actually building out a page. You don't necessarily need to group these things. It just depends. But in the widget area, you do.
It's a good practice though, because
Yeah.
the way the block editor works, every time you hit the return key, it creates a new block. So if you have a heading, that's a block. If you have a paragraph, it's a block. And it does that for different reasons, mainly the styling, right?
Yes.
Because you're heading a style different than your paragraph block.
Mm.
And
Well,
so
one other thing, yes, and I actually do a lot of grouping because it's a logical construction of your page that you're building.
Yeah.
And to me, and you can also, one other thing here, which you can see. So I'm going to put them back into a group, okay? And I'm going to actually set this group up since I make sure I'm in the group. I am in the group, okay? And I went there. And so one of the things you can do is I'm just going to, let's see, find, nope, not, I always do that text. I want a background color. And let me find this. It's not going to be correct in a way. So I just made a color for the group as a background for both of these elements. And if I come back over to here and I just refreshed, that shows up like so, which can be something that could be useful.
Mhm.
So one of the things the group can do is they can actually have a background color. You can have a gradient, do a lot of things with the coloring here. So
you can control the spacing too.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah, not much. It's usually a little
No,
CSS works, but yeah.
I use the generate press blocks. They have instead of group, they have a container.
Yes.
And that container has a lot of spacing and margin control. So
Right.
I've found with the widget editor that particular block, the container block, gives me a lot more control over how my widgets look.
Sure.
And
Yes.
so
Yeah, I'm doing this without any of that though.
yeah, I understand.
So it's just straight up WordPress, so to speak, as best I can.
Well,
So-
it's still WordPress. It's just a block.
Yeah. So yeah, the only, well, I just have a couple of plugins that they're not really relevant to building out the blocks here or anything like that. Again, just using the 2021 theme. So is there any other questions about this?
I'm just going to say that I really like the fact that you can change the background color so easy. It does make things pop.
Yeah, if you
And it's like simple Simon done. And WordPress is smart enough to make, if you put a light background, to put a dark color for the text. So
Yep. Yeah, that handles great. And it actually worked very well for being in dark mode. If I turn dark mode off, I'm kind of curious. Oh, it just removed it. So, okay. It's interesting. It looks like the same color. That's the
it is.
background anyway. So, okay. I could have changed it to a different color, but you would still have that color over the top anyway. It's a nice thing about 2021. I like the dark mode that you can toggle on and off as needed. So, so can we move on to the next area, which is, we got more?
Dean has his hand up.
Okay.
Sorry. I can't remember to take my hand down. I'll do that.
Oh. Okay, so let me jump back into the slide deck. The keynote here and play. Okay, so we fixed this up, which is good. And again, this is probably that classic widgets block that will actually take whatever got changed and move it back to the original widgets that they had. And they're going to keep this maintained to the end of 2022. I know that for a fact. They said that in effect. This is a plugin that came from WordPress. Because a lot of people said, hey, who moved my cheese? That was the kind of thing that happened there. Okay, so moving on to the next part, which is changes in the block editor. And I'm going to talk about the list view version. You've seen it in action a little bit so far. There's also a top toolbar change. And there's this block select tool, which is kind of interesting. I never saw it, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to use it again, but it should be such. And we're going to talk about block patterns. There's a lot here, and you can see this is a link to where the actual WordPress block patterns are. And then there's how to build patterns if you want to actually do the code for it. And this is a video, somebody else doing the same kind of thing, but differently. They're also building their own block patterns. And so let's actually, I'm going to go to the next slide also. And this is also basically, we're going to talk about new blocks. I'm going to put a pause when you actually do the demo in between so we can talk about it. These kind of things they should be in a group, as they say. So we have a lot of new blocks. There's the site logo, site tagline, and site title. And those are originally your logo that you had set up for your entire website. You have a site title for your website, and you also have a tagline. And then there's also in the theme area, this one is going to be very interesting. It's the query loop. And you have these are called, I would call dynamic editors. So in other words, when you put the title in, it's called post title. If I drop a post title block in there, it's just going to actually pull the title in for that page and post automatically. You don't have to retype it. It's just, and anytime you change the title of the page, it'll just appear. It dynamically is going to go out and find out what it should be. Like the featured image, there's a featured image block. You can drop that in and that featured image will show wherever you want it to be. So they have content, date, excerpt, log in and log out. And these are all kind of related to this query loop. And we'll talk about what that is. And you've been using the query loop basically since you started with WordPress. It's essentially the tool that gets used on the blog page. And when you're actually querying the database to actually go and say, pull all my posts into this page. And that's what it's actually doing. So this is now a new block, which makes it very interesting. I have a couple others. They got updated blocks, the file block, the file block, yes, and the table block. And there's this page list also. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out at this, and we'll get over to a different website. So this is the site I'm going to be working on right now. And so you can see there's a lot of stuff on here. And to be honest, on this one, I'm using Biloxi as the theme. And there's a reason for it, because I find it mirrors very well what's going on in the admin area to what you're seeing on the page. And that's been a real sticking point for a lot of people. So there's a list view, top toolbar, and block patterns. And you can see I just dropped a ton of patterns in here. And you see they're all nice. They don't necessarily make up a website, because they're all different and do different things. But you can see these are full extension blocks. And this is a query loop that I put together. Here's your duotone image and how that works and this stuff. And then there's another. These are all pattern blocks in here for the most part. So I'm actually going to, and it's the reason I stuck a lot of that in is I wanted to show you when you go into the editor for this, how to manage this. And I'm going to just take this out. So as you can see, one of the things I like about the block is that it shows everything pretty much full width for the theme that's being used. And one of the things that we have here in this regard is let me just get my bearing here. Yes, okay. So there's a couple of things here. This is the list view. And before, the list view was only relevant to whatever you had selected previously. So, but this list view now shows everything on the page. And you've probably seen it. If you've been running 5.0 and you've gone into the back end to take a look, you've seen this. And I think it's really great in that regard, because this way you can just come down here and say, go to my columns, and it'll take you right to that column. If we go back up to the cover at the top, it takes you up here to the top. And this is a cover block, which is kind of a group block, but it has some extra special features. And again, here's a group. It has the background, it has columns, and has 3 different columns within there. Okay, that's kind of the status of a lot of these things. And a lot of these came from different places. If we look over here, if I go to plus, like I'm going to add something from this sidebar in the blocks, and this is all the standard blocks that you would come across. But there's patterns to these also. Now the patterns, I think, are baked into WordPress here. And so if I come in here and I want to say I'm interested in a header block, well, you can see that was the header block that I had here before. I just this one, and I could come in here and just drag this in again. And these are all baked into basically WordPress, and you'll see these. And there's some themes that will also have their own pattern blocks. Like the 2021 theme has their own title up here, and the images that you actually see in the 2021 theme, the patterns there are built into the theme itself. Most themes don't use they just use these as experiments. And one of the things about these block patterns is that they're not necessarily meant to use as is. The idea is you would come in here and you would change the titles, you would change the content, the text, basically the content, and even the image. You're just keeping the pattern that it displays. And that's why they're called block patterns. And because this image here is not on your website, this image is actually in WordPress.org, because that's where all these patterns come from. And you don't necessarily want to keep going to WordPress.org and having this re-brought in every time that you do these things, because you want it on your site. And there is a way to actually make this image so you can actually find it and actually bring it into the site. But the idea is that these images and pretty much everything should be replaced. I'm not going to use these images. I would like the patterns, though, that they have. I'm not going to use this text because it doesn't apply. So the idea of block patterns is really powerful, and it gives you an idea of how you might be able to build things. I find it really useful to be able to pulling this apart and saying, well, how did they do that? And if I go to this group here, or if I go to this group down here, and I go, how did they build this? Let me scroll down, sorry. It's a cover block. That's why it's not a group. So, and I can actually say, well, how did they do this? And you can actually look at this and pull it apart and find out, okay, there's a cover block, there's columns, and there's a heading down here on this side. And the interesting, so that to me is the interesting thing about block patterns. If you just randomly go and get a bunch of block patterns and put them into a page like I just did, it doesn't really make a website. They're too different in that regard. So treat it as like a teaching tool of how you can manipulate these blocks. And as you can see, the cover block is a group. This one here down below is a group. A whole bunch of stuff that I can add as a group. This is a cover block too. And of course, this has a little interesting, it has this force next to it because I added it as an HTML anchor link. And if I go here, if I turn this on, sorry, turn this one on, and I go back here. I need this one, right? Sorry, and go to advanced. And you can see I added an anchor link. And the anchor link is nothing more than a specific link that you can get to within the page. You've seen anchor text, you've had these, it's been in WordPress for quite a long time. Now, this is kind of helpful to realize, where did I put this anchor link? Well, here it is. And what I did back up at the top here is I went to this button and I added that link with a hashtag forest. And when you do that, let me actually paste this up here. And if I go here and click on visit, you can see it scrolled down to where forest is. So, but it's nice to be able to handle it because a lot of times you have no idea. Say, I knew I have an anchor link in here somewhere. I don't know what it is or where it is. So it's very, very handy having that like that. So let me get back to home and edit. Okay. And from here, that's pretty much it that I want to say. This page usually stays open, and I would just really recommend using the short codes or the actual keystrokes that you can use. And I kind of pull up the keystrokes. Here they are. Short. I actually know what the short code, the key is to get the short codes up. When you start working with this, you're just mousing around. And some of the times when you get to the point where you actually start using these, how do you move a selected block? And it tells you this is on a Mac, so it would show me the Mac. If you were on a PC, it would show you the PC codes there too. So what I do is I hit on the Mac, I hit Control Option O, and it pops up the list view on that side. Do it again and toggle it on and off. Much easier to make. My mouse can be anywhere and do that. And then on Shift, Command, comma, I can pull up the sidebar on that side. So very easy to get things in and out. So if you know a few commands and just try to work it out, just it's muscle memory. Okay. So here we have this. I'm just going to click them again. Sorry. I want to show you one thing in regard to what's changed up here. I know most people use, and I'm going to go to the tool, the little 3 dots, which is the options page. Most people I use full screen mode. I use top toolbar sometimes, but what it does is it takes here, let me get back over to here. So here is where I'm editing this column. But if I take the top toolbar, it's going to move this up to here, and it's going to stick it to this bar. And it used to stick up here. And the reason they're doing this because I think WordPress wants this space for themselves. So, and it makes sense. If I like this, then it shows up here at the top, and I can come down, and if I click here, it reorganizes this and shows me what it is. I'm not used to it yet, but it's something that you can use if you want. But it's changed in regard to where it is at that point. Let's see. I think that is all I had. We talked about how to group things, and that's easy enough to do. Top toolbar, block handles. I'm just going to touch briefly on the block handles because, to be honest with you, I think it's kind of weird, but it does do a thing. So over here, I'm in a group, right? And so I've selected this group. So this little thing, which I'd never actually ever clicked before, is the edit button. And this makes it a select button. So you see it actually turn this into a something that you could use. And I could actually take this and drag this down into a whole block in a group very easily. And it kind of, every time I come up here, it'll actually say what it is. And it makes it a little easier. And there's key commands, which I haven't really bothered with at this point, to actually move these things around. I would just be clear that's what it is. And I usually just stay with the editor and move it otherwise. This list view here that you see, which I think is great, you can't take something and drag it up above. This will happen in 5.9. They do have draggable. Everything in here is draggable, which is great to be able to take and switch. They say, oh, I want to take this and move it up above here, which they can do in the full site editing in 5.9. We're at 5.8 something at this point. So there are certain things that are coming that they know and I think is really good. I think that is all I had for this. Yes. Okay. So are there any questions on this?
Marianne has her hand raised. And
Yes.
then Eagle after that.
My hand is raised. I figured that out. Okay. I realize you think it's muscle memory, Dog, but would you tell me again the shortcuts to bring up that list view on the sides and
Yeah,
on
I
the
didn't
left
know
and
that.
right?
So that is, let me see option. So that is on the Mac, it's Control Option H.
Control?
Option H. And if you want to find it, you know, I'll just take it here. The easiest thing to do also is to go to the options area here over in the upper right corner, and you can come down here and say keyboard shortcuts, and it'll actually tell you what the command key is. And if you're on a PC, it'll give you the correct ones for that too. So that'll bring it up also. It's kind of buried and hidden. That
Oh my gosh,
very
I've never pushed that button. Okay.
Yeah.
So Control Option 8 brings me that whole list view.
Yep.
And what's the one for the sidebar on the right?
Sidebar on the right. Well, you can, let's see, it should be, it is Control Option sidebar on the right, text formatting. Nope, we're in block shortcuts. It is, I know it by heart, I just don't know where it is in the list. Open the block list view. Here it is. It is Control Option O.
I think you can Control F and search for the text as text on the page if you want to.
Yeah. And also the one that I put on the sidebar on the right side is actually, it's a Shift Command, comma. It's a weird one, I know. But you take a look at this, you can take a snapshot of it. I wish there was a print button, or just say, make this a PDF so I can print it out and stick it up on the wall. And, you know, again, muscle memory really helps here. The thing that I use all the time, I mean, literally all the time, is, well, there's one, duplicate blocks, but also insert a new block before the selected block, which is tremendous, or insert a block after the selected block. And that is the command, what is it? Command Option T for top, move it up to the top, and Command Option Y to move it below the block. And just gives you another place to actually start typing stuff into. Anyway, it's a very handy. And, you know, when you're starting to do a lot of work, it's just so much nicer just to get rid of this stuff here and here. And let me see, that one pops and this one pops. And so very quickly, you know, you can just jump right in and do things. Okay. Any other questions?
Eagle?
Yeah, mine's not really a question as much as one of the things that I really liked about the 5.8 change is that when you're on a block in the advanced options, there's an anchor tab.
Yes.
And if you type a name in that anchor tab, it shows up in the outline list. So you can organize your, instead of just saying cover, you could say forest cover or whatever. Yeah, you've already got it there, but that's from the anchor tab in the options. The other thing they did is under the options is they moved the block manager. It used to be under preferences. Now it's got its own menu item.
Where's that under options?
Yeah. So if you go to options, used to be you had to go into the preferences at the bottom, but now it's just right there. Right now it's up there under tools, block manager. It's got its own. No, you're there. You're already there. Just come down.
That's the block seed. That's the different. That's my block seed page builder here. So I'm not sure that so there's a command for preferences, or where else would it be?
Click on the options again. And there where it says tools. Block manager.
Oh,
whoop, right there.
There we go.
Block manager. So that's where you turn blocks on and off.
Right. Right. Okay. Yes.
It used to be under the preferences, but they moved it out.
Okay. Yeah. I usually, yes. And it's a good idea because there's some blocks that you'll never use.
Yeah.
You know, so just to clean up the list over here, and when you're
it's more than cleaning up. If you turn them off, then they don't load.
Really?
Yeah.
They actually, okay, they've done that. Wow, that's great. Okay. That's awesome to know.
Well, that's what I heard.
Okay. Huh.
I can't guarantee it, but that's what I've heard. That it only loads the blocks that you have actually turned on.
Got it. Okay, got it. Nice. Nice. Anything else at this time, or?
I think that's all.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Rich, you have your hand up?
Yes, I think you guys just answered that, but can you go back to where you found the block manager? Yeah, and can you explain what this does it turn on? So if you unclick text,
Right.
does it just get rid of that block? I mean,
It
Yeah.
gets rid of the block here, I think, when you actually view what you have in this list. I don't think if you turn the text off, I don't think it actually does it disable all the text that you've added in the
No,
block?
no, it doesn't. It
It's just
just
visually. Okay.
it takes that out of the block manager.
Yeah. Okay.
and
So,
what does that mean then? It takes it out of the block manager.
well, here's the block manager right here. Now, this is where you actually get to go see your blocks.
Oh, I
And
see.
there's a ton of these things in here, and there may be stuff I'm never going to do crowd signal,
Or like
that sort of thing.
Animoto or something that
Yeah.
Right.
I don't. Oh, I get it. So
So
you
if you uncheck it, it won't be there,
Right.
and that block won't load.
Yeah. It just cleans that up there.
oh, it doesn't. Yeah, I get it now. So if I never used the particular
Yeah. If you never use the
particularly
table,
those
right? You don't have. Yeah. So it'll just won't
yeah
show up.
or if you scroll down a little bit more, Doug, to no, even farther down, I was thinking
Can we
Yeah,
turn one
like
off
these
and walk and see what happens?
embeds,
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
like all these embeds.
Yeah, these are all
Yeah.
the beds. So that's a good idea. Let's just go in and take one out. Literally, I'm not take that one out. Let's see. I don't think it does all embeds. I think it's like a global. If you're never going to do embeds, it'll just take all the embeds out. I think that's something.
Oh, I see.
Change. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
But if you're never going to use the tag cloud in the widgets, you just uncheck it and it'll not show up over there. So I hope it doesn't. We'll see.
You might have to refresh.
What's that?
I don't
You
think
might
so.
have to refresh. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'd be surprised if that's the case, but let's see. So widgets, and do we see, it looks like it's gone.
You can search from the top.
Search
Okay,
TAG.
which one did I uncheck?
Tag.
Tag.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone.
Gone. Oh, it says it's in the embed, but it's not available. So it's just, the embeds have changed a little bit too. You can embed anything with a
Okay,
link, that sort of thing.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay.
And
It's a
Eagle.
cool idea though. I like that, because there's a lot of stuff. I do that with page builders too. There's like, do I really need another pricing table? No. So, okay, let me get rid of that one. So that's very helpful.
The thing that people need to understand is that the block editor is a JavaScript editing system. And when you go into block editing mode, it loads this JavaScript tool and you get these blocks and stuff. But when you save the page, there are no blocks. It saves the page. What becomes a block is, if you look at the code, it's wrapped in comments. And the comment has the name of the block. But what's saved into post content, which is how the page is saved, is just HTML and comments. So there's no extra code in there. So this
I'll
is
show you. I can show this. So here's a simple 2-sentence paragraph.
Right.
If you use the options button here, you can say edit as HTML, and that's basically it right there.
Right, but
that's
if you go,
actually what gets wrapped.
If you go up to options though, on the options key up there at the top right.
Yeah, you can do the whole page. Yeah.
Well, it'll show you the comments.
Yeah. So I think there was a key command, if I can remember that. Oh yeah, here we go. That's the whole
Right,
page.
right.
Yes. And again, this is one of the ones that I use, which is for the Mac, it's Shift Option Command M. That's a mouthful to say. And as you can see, this is the entire page.
Right.
And if I selected all this, copied it, went to a new page and pasted this into it, it would actually show, well, heck, let's just do it. Copied. Okay, I'm going to exit the code editor. You always want to make sure. And now let's go ahead and leave. Okay, I'll update. I'm not sure what I'm updating, but I'll do it. I'll do it anyway. So if I come down here and do a new page, And I'm just going to paste. Everything, the whole page came over.
Yep.
So it's very
You
easy to
can-
move stuff around, if you
You
want
can also copy it to a different site.
Yes, yep. Move it to a different site, yes. But anyway, so that's exciting, okay? I'm not gonna.
One thing, there's another way to copy all content as well. And there's if you go to the 3 little dots in the upper right-hand side and scroll down, there's a copy all content right there.
Yes, right,
So that's 2 ways to do it.
yep. That'll take
But
it.
that's not actually going to copy the images, right? You're actually copying the true paths. If the paths are relative or if the paths are
Right, that's true, that you won't.
Yeah.
It will copy the image. You'll just be stealing it from someone else's website.
Yeah.
No, that's only if it's a path to somebody else's website.
Yeah, well, that's the only way the images are loaded. It's a
Oh, Alicia's
path.
stuck in there.
Yeah,
Not if you built. Now that's true with the image you're looking at, because you got it from a block pattern.
well, no, all
But-
the images in WordPress are the full path. Look in the code.
yeah. Well, yeah, this is a WordPress image, so that's gonna come over regardless. But if it's one of your images that is in your site, like if I did this one, I actually just dropped this in to see what this is right in the WordPress website, in the media library. So what happens when this comes over to another site? Does it reference this site?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
going to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would.
So that's something that I wouldn't want to do.
It's not going to load the image, is it?
It is going to load
Yeah.
the image. This is also how you can put a signature in your email. You just load it in your media library.
Yeah, but that's hot linking, and you can shut hot linking off, so it doesn't allow somebody else to take your image from another site. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, that was my next question. Okay.
Yeah, it's- yeah, it's hot link. It's considered to be bad form.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you could do that.
It can waste your bandwidth.
Yes,
They're
right.
famous, you know.
Yeah. Yes,
So
everybody.
you're saying by default,
Yes, all images have your website URL /WP
Yep.
/content uploads, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
how the hell did I not notice that?
I have no idea, Doug. I'm sorry. I'm actually just disturbed.
Yeah.
Man,
Well, you can turn hot linking off on some hosts, doing it that way, so that they'll just get a big blank. Anyway. So let me see, where did we leave off? So is there any other questions about this we covered?
Yes.
here?
So Rich has his hand raised. I just wanted also to mention that Cloudflare has an option to disable hot linking if you
Yeah.
use Cloudflare.
Well, that was my question, was how do you turn off hot linking do you do that in WordPress, or is it a function of the theme?
It's usually a function of the host, and that's been my experience, but you could do it maybe in other ways. But I know the host has usually, don't allow, if somebody comes in and nicks your image, you can actually say the host, you can ask them to if they can disable hot linking.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think there may be other ways, but that's the easiest one.
So not strictly in WordPress per se.
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I've seen plugins that add the functionality, but I don't think it's part of core.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, Robert.
Okay. Okay. Are we okay to move on to next thing, or? Well, we talked a little. Okay, we talked a little bit about block patterns, and so let's just get back to here. I'm going to scroll up to the top, and we're going to talk about pattern blocks. I'm never sure, block patterns or pattern blocks. I don't know, but anyway, I labeled it pattern blocks here, and so this was a pattern block that I took from WordPress.org/patterns and modified it. I changed the images, I changed the color of this, and because I wanted to test it to see what it does. And where you would get those patterns from WordPress is in WordPress.org/patterns, as you can see up here. And there are a number of patterns. Some of them you've probably seen, and you probably used. this came from this. So the easy thing about getting this as a pattern is you copy, and the same old copy function that we've been using all the time. And if I come in here to edit the page, and so long as I drop a post down here and I go ahead, I'm ready to go. I'm just going to paste, and it brought it right in. Now they allow hot linking because these images are on WordPress.org in their static site. These are all assets of WordPress, and you can take this and change the images, which I'd always recommend, or at least download the image and then have it on your website so that you always have it. It's a little bit cumbersome to do, but it is doable. But the idea is that, well, the trick is like, how did they get this yellow bar over here? So one of the things you can do, and I'm not going to go through it because it's going to take a little bit too long, but you can actually pull this apart and see, how do they get that color in there? Oh my gosh, they did some weird gradient, and here it is, and there's a couple of things going on in here, and it's a linear gradient at 180, and they got it white. It's a sharp edge. I did the same thing, but I modified it, put my images in, stuck a blue bar across it, and angled it. So you can actually take these things and make them your own, which I recommend doing. I certainly recommend changing the images or using images that are relevant to your website. I would say, like, I don't want yellow I didn't know why I had blue here, but I could say maybe I can pull my accent color into the back. That's much more replicable than the yellow. So that's all I wanted to say about this. But pattern blocks you can pick up from here. And there's a good number of them, and some of them are really useful. I think this one gets used a lot because it's just a little bit more unique. Some of them are pretty straightforward. And these are the same kind of pattern blocks, like you saw this on the homepage was a pattern. I copied this and pasted it into the homepage just to see how they did this, where they have this unique idea of an image back here, and they did a gradient with this. Was a color gradient, but they changed the opacity down so that it had all, there was no opacity at all, so they could actually see through it. So it's really good to actually take these and say, well, how did they do that? And then you can make them yourself. That's the goal, I thought. But anyway, I think it's a pretty cool idea. And that's pretty much all I had on pattern blocks. I can update this and see what it looks like. Boom, pattern blocks. Here we go. So that was that look like, and that's kind of was the pattern block when I changed it. That's all. Okay. There's not much to say about this, in that regard, but I think pattern blocks are very cool, but just make sure you own them. Make sure the images you have, make sure the colors match your brand and all that sort of stuff. And I actually change the content. And the idea is that they keep the structure. And it's mostly the structure you'll be interested in. Okay. So I'm going to go on, if we need to, go on to new blocks. It's new blocks on the path. So I did a query loop here. We'll actually take a look at that later. But there's a lot of new blocks. I'm going to go through a few of them, not all of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit the page. And I'm going to do a here and just going to go up top, and here we go. So all these blocks that we list here, and I'm going to I'm just going to use the slash and so post. So I could actually take the post date, and you can see, let me see, can we see the date over here? It's September 2, right? See that over there? So I'm just going to pop the post date in, September 2. So I didn't type that in. It actually pulled this from over here, if that makes sense. And I'm going to actually do another, let's see, do another T1. I'm going to drop another one below, and I'm going to type in post featured image. So this is the featured image. And if I bring this in, it's going to change. It brings in the featured image. If I go over here to change this, let me just put something different in, okay? Set the featured image, it changes here because it's always looking into this featured image on this page. This is what they call it, it's a dynamic filter. So I don't have to actually physically go and get the featured image and put it in as a block and then make the change. It just have to put it in right there as you saw. So then you can do this with a lot of these things. And let me just actually type in something too. And there's a lot of these post blocks. There's a title, there's the content, which is kind of crazy. It can pull in, I don't know why you pull in your own content into the content, but I guess you could. But you have a post excerpt here. If you had an excerpt on this page, you would bring it in. There's a post list, there's post categories. Most of these are related to using with the query loop. And by the query loop, it means that it just, everything in the post section, when you go to the blog page and look at the list of posts that you have, that is a query loop. It's querying the database and going to the post and say, I need this information and it needs to show up in this block on my blog page. And that's kind of what the query loop does. And my feeling is that it might be good just to jump into the query loop at this point. There's a couple of images, but there's a couple of things that are, well, let's see here. Post, I'm going to actually get out of post. So there is a, let me look at my notes here. There was a query loop duotone. And nope, I don't have it right now. So if I go to here and I just say page, that's what it was. So there's a page list right here. So here's the list of all the pages that I have. If I go up here and take a look, there they are all the way across. So I don't have to type it in, and it's one of these blocks that they have. There is a interesting one. I'm going to just, there's also a file list. I'm going to upload. This is something that they had that's new. Let me see, upload file. Let me just grab, if I can. I'm actually going to grab my slide deck if I can find it real quick. That's the assets. Here's the PDF. Okay. So I'm just dropping in a PDF into the file. Oh, I had it there. Sorry. And I'm going to select it. And there it is.
Wow.
Cool thing is I'm going to change this to about 720 if I remember correctly. And the nice thing is that it's just not the cover, it's the whole thing. So it can scroll through the whole entire slide deck. And I thought that was pretty cool. And you can get, of course, you can get the little sidebar over here. So for presenting a slide deck, there you go. And that's the file. That's something new that they just added to this. And I think that's all I want to talk about on that. I want to show you the query loop and how that works, because I think that's going to be very important moving forward. So is there any questions about what you saw here as far as any of these, the idea of dynamic blocks? And those all start with the word post, needs a page also.
Marianne?
First of all, I want to tell you, this has been really great. I've learned a lot. I probably started using the Gutenberg before you did, but
yeah, I know you did. You got me into it.
But now you've surpassed me. But I do have a question. I love this new file block, because before, you had to add you say, please, if you want to put a link to a post, I mean, to a PDF, you just say, you'd have to put the link in, and then you say, open, here's a link to this PDF, and then it opened up on their screen. But you can do this. It's so much nicer looking.
And there's a download button here. You can print it, all sorts of, you can change the size. It's really very handy. There's also
Can you show us how it looks, update the page and show us how it looks on the page?
Sure. So let me update and go all the way down, my pet peeve, go all the way down the lower right corner, and there it is. And you can just start scrolling.
Wow. Okay, and what theme are you using? You mentioned it earlier.
I'm using the Blocksy theme because, as I mentioned before, when I'm actually editing, it looks pretty much the same.
Right. It's BLOXY?
BLOCKSY. It was a theme designed for using the block editor.
Okay.
And it works with other page builders too.
Sure.
And it's very functional. Doug Noyle will love it because it has a dark mode customizer, so there you go.
That'll be law one of these days.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is a really cool thing. I'll show you one other thing too that they changed, and I just turned it into a reusable. There's a table block, which I never really used. And one of the things that you have, and this is a reusable block. I didn't want to build this thing out again because why bother? But what you can do is, if I go over here, is that you can actually change the color of the stripes. And that's the text colors. You can come down here, you can change the color of the stripes. So you can actually TikTok these things. So it makes it much easier to manage if you're ever using the table here.
Block is this?
This is called Table. It's a table.
From who?
It's a WordPress.
Okay.
This is everything that I'm pulling in here is a WordPress block. This is something new. The only thing they added here was they just added this ability to colorize rows. Anyway, I didn't want to set it up. As you set it up, it's a bunch of blank stuff and you have to fill it in. So anyway, that's what I did. Okay. And I'm just going to remove that block here. So I don't have it. I want to actually move over to get the query loop going, because I think that's probably one of the more important things to understand and to get. So we're moving left here, or moving right actually. And so let's go to the query loop. And this is the query loop that I built. These are posts. And actually, let me just go to the blog, my blog. This is a fake blog, okay? Images, and this is, has images, and there's a bunch of other stuff. I did the faker press for a lot of this, just to actually put fake stuff in these, which is a great little tool for just seeing how things play out. But what I did, this is something that you can build, and you can build as you want. You can see I have categories set in here. I didn't choose to put the categories here. So I'm just going to start with the query loop. It's kind of, I hope I make the case that this is pretty cool. Anyway, so I'm going to start down here and I'm going to type in a query as a loop, and it defaults to the most recent post, as you can see this here. And you go, okay, then I can see there's a title. Here's the title of the post. Here's the featured image of that. Here is the excerpt, and here is the date, okay, of the post. And so this is pulling all this in dynamically. We're on a different page. We're on a page, that I just called query post, but that's on looking over into the post area. And you can say this is the carousel view. And so I can choose different views. I can say, oh, I want this instead, as the post. I can use this one. I could use this one. I have a whole bunch of 6. And I could use this, which is different. You can see these are all posts that I have, right? And I can go over here and get this other kind of crazy one like. So I'm just going to go back to the first one because I find it the most useful, right? And I'm going to choose this. And there it is. Now we have a couple of things. This is the query. Let me pull this up over here. So this is the query loop. And in there's a post template, which is the one we had picked, this one. So the query loop has some options to choose from. I can put this in, this is in a list view, and you can see there, and if I click this is display settings. I said I only have 1. So I can push up to 3, and now I have 3 in a list. Okay. And this is pulled, this is from the first, most recent, second recent, third recent. And this is over here. This is the order by newest to oldest. If I went oldest to newest, that'd be completely different stuff. And you can actually sort these by alphabetical order, but normally the one is newest to oldest. And I'm picking this from a post. I can actually pick from another page if I wanted to. I just have to be able to target that page. which is pretty interesting to do. One of the things to do here is that I can actually filter. Let me see, I have movies, filter for categories. And you know, that one went away. These are all in the movie category. So you can filter on category, you can filter on keyword, which is, let me see, well, anyway, so if you did a post title, if you just wanted the post title, you would come over here and grab the, let me get back to the query loop. I lost my place there. So you can actually put in a keyword, which is the title, content, anything else that you can think of, and you can just grab some of the posts that have that keyword in them. I'm going to just keep it so it's everything. But this isn't exactly what we want because this is a list. I want it into a grid. So this is the list view and this is the grid. So with the grid, we have 3 in a row. And I could make it 2. I could come back over here and make it 4 if I wanted to. A little sluggish doing this anyway. So we have 4 in here. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Oh, I know. So again, we're going back to the display settings. We've said to only display 3 items. So if I bump it up to 4, that will show. Okay, I'm going to go back to 3 because 4 is too much. So interestingly enough here, we can actually say, well, you know, I kind of want to have my title, you know, below the image. And so well, that's something we can do. I select the title here. Oops, I'm going to grab the post title here. And I'm just going to arrow it down, put it underneath, and notice it did it for all 3 because it's acting as a master for pulling in all these pieces of information. I don't want the separator. It looks silly. So let me just come in here and remove it. Well, I can't do that because, hold on, move block. I had to go up because I was hiding under something else. So, and I have this, and I said, that's great. So let's actually update and take a quick peek. See what we have. And there is our query loop. And so if I actually go to any one of these, if I click second post, it's like clicking on a link and we go to the second post. This is the actual post page. Okay. Let me go back to the query loop. And we can do a little bit more. I'm just going to show you one of the things that you can do when you're here as far as, you know, starting. And again, this is about grouping stuff. Wait for him to come in. And let me get the options over here. So I have this, I selected this, and I'm going to shift click the bottom. I have all 3 of these pieces here, and I'm going to turn that into a group. I'm not turning it into a group. I made it a group up here. And so when I come to the group, I can go over to the color and I can say the background color, and I can put the background color in. I can update. Now it's good. It looks like it's broken here, but it actually does a very nice job in tightening it up. So you have a nice background, you know, against this, and it actually has some wrapping around here, some padding that you can utilize. And so that is, I'm going to show you one other quick thing, then we can have a question about this. So I'm going to go back in here and edit. And I want to show, so that's what I did here. Okay. But what I want to show is I had this.
At the WordPress meetup.
So this is the query loop here, but you can see I'm not using this first image here. This is the first image in the post, and this is the second, third, and fourth. And the reason for doing that, this is a single. And if I come up, let me pull this over to the side. So I have the query loop. I put a spacer at the top and put it in a group, and the group has the color. So the query loop here, and I made this set to only one piece here, right? And I had it set for here, and this shows like this. And I went down to the other query loop, which is here. But I'm not showing the first one. So I can actually do this for display, and I actually offset it by 1. So if I put this back to 0, you see the first one came in. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to do this to feature the first, post. And to do this, I would say, I just have it offset by 1 so that I don't see this thing twice. If I actually put this to 2, it would actually take out the second one also. So you can actually do one of these kind of things too. And this is kind of a stand, I don't want to say it's a standard, but it is a kind of an area that has it. So this could be a full little query section that you can drop in. You can put this, I'm putting this on a page and it's referencing posts directly. And I'm putting it in so I got beer and food and news. This is so if I went over, this would take me to my blog page, which is not anything to do with the block editor. This is what the theme is doing. Okay. And you can see it's doing category news. If I go back to the query loop and then come down here. So I hope this isn't too, it's a little confusing in some way, but once you get the idea that you can actually get stuff, I'm pulling in this second post title from, and I'm using the post title block and it's pulling in from my post and I'm on a page right now. Okay. Any questions on this? There might be some.
Rich first.
Okay.
This is really terrific, Doug. You were doing grouping, and grouping is new to me in WordPress, which is fantastic. I do grouping of media items in Camtasia a lot. So the question is, can you have groups within groups?
You can, I don't know if you can put a group right underneath another group, but you can have things in here. Like, let me just take a look. I know on some things you can have multiple groups. So spacer, let me see, we have a group here. No, I didn't put any group in here. Here's a group, but I didn't put in, a column is actually in its own way as a group. You know?
Oh yeah, okay.
But you can, so you can see, I can actually say, I can take this, and if I wanted to, query back, because I can't put a color in the background of the query loop, right? So, but what I can do is come here and say, yeah, transform it to a group and watch it pop the group and pop the query loop. And I have a group
got
here.
Yep.
And now I can colorize the back of this. If I make this full width, and I could give it a nice dark color.
Yeah.
Update of the page.
You've got my creating juices flowing. One last question is the query loop that's on that we're looking at in this page. That's just a header you typed in, right?
Well, I should have explained. I don't ever
query
really,
loop looks like a page.
Yes, it's actually saying, go get me this.
I know, no.
Whatever it happens to be.
No. My question is, now in editing, I see the words query loop above query loop.
Yeah.
Is one of those in H1 and the other is, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying exactly. You always have to put the title in, right? I can remove this, it's part of the theme that I'm using. The page title, I'm inheriting it here. So it's this puts in all the time. I'm just saying disable this in the actual view, and I have to put this in, which is you can see this is the oops, sorry.
Right. Now, so Doug, my question is where you have the insertion point there. Instead of saying query loop, it could say my coolest posts or something. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you could. Let me just go back here so you can actually see what this is. This is the post title, and if I remove this, pulled in the post title.
No. Now I understand.
Okay.
Now I understand what that is. But if I'm using a query loop somewhere, like under your group there. Right. It doesn't necessarily. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess it
was just a title I put in. It was nothing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's okay. So it could be whatever I want. When I'm using a query loop,
right? The
query loop features.
Right. Yes, these are all posts you can see.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And,
so
and
then
you can put in your own heading, a heading too.
Yeah. So I change. Yes, this changes the heading because this is the post title, and I can type in whatever I want, and it changes it.
Yeah, understand. understand. That's
Be a
cool.
little careful
Okay.
about that, you know. And as I said, whenever you get a new page in a WordPress site, it actually puts the title, and you have to enter the
Okay.
title in first. And
Of
that's what
course.
this is.
But
Of
but
course.
to clear this up, instead of using post title there, you could have just used a heading block and changed
Correct.
it to whatever you want.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
what he's at. That's what he's
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get
Yes.
that. I get
Yeah.
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you for the clarification.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just say query loop every time I use the
No,
query
no,
loop
no,
feature.
no,
Yep.
no.
Cool. Thank you.
That's totally separate from the query loop.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, if we did that, so now you notice it changed the
menu.
menu item, right? Because we have query loop hello too. So be a little careful when you're changing the post, title, because it will be affected in more places than you can think. Okay. All right. So any other questions about this? I mean, this is a deep topic, the query loop and what can be done. And there's some things that are missing in here that will hopefully get in on the 5.9 still,
Like navigation.
Yes, it's one of the big ones is navigation is missing. And also another one, which is the gallery. Right now, the gallery is still a little bit older, and you put in a bunch of images, and it's like a wrapper for your images, but you can't access the image directly. But the new one coming in 5.9, you can actually put images in, and you can modify the images. You can put in, next portion, duotones, on your images in the gallery block, but not until 5.9. So is it okay to move on to just to finish up some of these image things?
Just a quick comment to
Yes.
follow up in Rich about the question about nesting groups. And yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. You can nest groups and to enable you to put outlines individually on different ones and backgrounds and whatnot.
Right. I just want to be clear about one thing too. I mean, sometimes you get into a group and you go, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. How do I get rid of it? So I group this query loop, right? So I can put a color in. And if I decide, I don't want the group. And the easiest thing to do is to select the group, come over to the options table here and just ungroup. And that'll remove the group. It'll remove the background and color also, but it's the easiest way to get rid of the group. And then the query loop will pop up over to here. Does that make, here, I'll just do it. Boom. Now it's queried. And it lost the background.
I think Mary Ann and Laura have questions.
Okay.
I don't know who was first.
So it's Mary Ann and then Laura. So I think, or at least for me, it should be in order. Like whoever's higher up is the person who raised their hand first. So Mary Ann.
Okay, I'm unmuted. So my question, actually, I just think this is really great. I've never used a query loop either. But when I want it, you could use this, I assume, to like put your most recent posts on the home page of your website, for example.
Yes. And you can put in what you want as opposed to just, whatever that's given to you. You might not ever want to see the, the date in this. So you can just remove the date.
Well, you can, there is a post block that you can put on your home page as well.
Yes.
And you turn on certain things on the right-hand side. You can turn on the date or turn off the date. But I like this query loop. That's really good.
It's much more powerful because you can, as I said, you can put the title up above. You don't have to have the featured image. You can make it what you want because
it is
all
more
blocks.
powerful. Yeah.
Okay. I think the difference between the query loop version and the block version that you were talking about, Mary Ann, with the block version is static. Whatever you're referencing stays the same. This is dynamic. So if you're doing it based on the most recent posts, as you add more posts, this page is going to update automatically.
Actually, the block version is dynamic as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when you add more posts, they come in. And you can set it so it'll hold hold 3 posts or 2 posts or 5 posts, whatever you want.
It is a query loop actually, but what it is, it's pretty static in how you can actually see what you need. That's what they've done. And this way,
Right, there's only a certain number of things you can do
Right.
on it, so.
And the one thing that's missing right now is pagination. Like, let's say you want to put in, 3 pages. You have these 3 blocks, and you want to say, I should put a pagination down below so I can go to the next 3. But they don't have that yet. That's coming in 5.9, from what I understand. There's incremental changes here, So.
Okay.
Okay, my turn.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that you can use a custom post type on this as well.
Yes, right. I didn't have a custom post type, didn't have one time to put it in, but if you have any custom post type, let's say you use a plugin called Strong Testimonials, and it makes a custom post type. You can use this instead of just picking, right now. If I go here, let me see, sorry, query loop. Let me get rid of this.
Will it pick up the custom fields that you may have created?
Yeah, so it knows, it'll look for the post type, and it'll say any custom post type here too.
But what about the custom fields? It won't do that. That's
I don't know.
way
Well,
too much.
Well, no, I will show you something that you can get advanced custom fields into here too. Not
Okay,
all of, hold on, don't get too excited. I know it would excite, yes. You had you can short code, as you know, advanced custom fields. You can short code the text field and the text area field. Those are the only 2. If you can short code anything from advanced custom field, know how to make a short code of it, yes, you can drop it in here. You can drop in, you would not be able to drop in a short code block. It would need to be an HTML block. That's what seems to work. You can drop it in, put in your short code, and you can wrap it with a div, put a class to it, or put any kind of styling you want within that.
You can build custom blocks with ACF.
Yes, you can. That's a separate area. I'm just talking about just.
So they don't think.
No, it's not going to build it for you, but automatically. But I can show you something that I did, but that's a little bit past.
Yeah, another talk.
Yeah, it's different talk entirely. Alicia, you should do that talk, Okay. Okay. So anything else on this? Let me get back to. So we're at query loop hello 2. Okay. Can we move on to finish up some of the image stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Duotone. This is not duotone. Yeah. Duotone is one of those filters that you can add to any image block, and you can add also to the cover block, because that's an image in the back. It doesn't do the featured image block. You can't do it yet. That'll be in 5.9. And if you have a gallery in 5.9, since the images are going to be in there directly, you can actually apply a duotone to those images within a gallery block too. So what this means, what is this? You've probably seen this on Instagram, it's kind of all over the place in that regard. So if I select the image, which I have done, and you see this little empty circle, and so apply duotone filter, and I get a couple of choices here along the top. My favorite is this one here with the black. And so what we're going to do is the color that shows up here is going to be in the dark, in the shadows, and the color that shows up here is going to be highlights. So I'm going to just do this, and you can see what it does. It actually puts black on the bars that were dark and takes the blue tint and put it specifically on the lighter areas. So the kind of image that you're using, so long as it has a lot of contrast, it'll work really well. Black and whites work great. You can just do it, but you can put a color image in. But what it really likes is a image that has a high contrast between darks and lights. You can obviously, I can come in here and change this to any of the colors that I want. You can see it changes, and you can make this as part of your your accent color for your website. You can use with the color, and use this occasionally. I wouldn't do it all over the place, but well, you can, as you can see, I can just change. I'm changing the tone of everything, and it's mostly changing the highlight colors, the lighter colors. And that's about, and you can make your own colors too. One of the things they have now down here, maybe you saw it, but they have HSL, which is great. So as opposed to just RGB, if you're an HSL fan like I am, you would like that. And that's, I think that's been in there for a while though. So, and then you could clear it and then come back and try any of the ones that they have. Some of them, they're very, let's just say, hard to look at, but that's okay. You can make changes to it. And if you want to just go straight up black and white, there it is. I took all the tone out of it entirely. There, if I clear it, it just brings up a little bit of tone to this. Black and white images work great. Things that have high contrast work great. So that's it for that. As far as duotone goes, there's one other thing regarding images that I want to talk about. So anything else on this?
No.
Okay, good. Duotone. Okay, so I'm on a Mac. I'm running Big Sur, which is the latest operating system. I uploaded a WebP image, and I did that using, do I have it here? I didn't use it. Okay, so one of the reasons, how do you make a WebP image? You can actually go to squoosh.app, 2 P's. This is a Google property, which is great. I'm just going to pick one of their images as a show and tell. If you're using compression on an individual image, this is a wonderful tool to use. But I don't want to compress it to a Moz JPEG. I want to make a WebP. And you can actually change in quality or do whatever you want, but this will actually export as a WebP image, which is great. So, and it's getting covered up down here at the bottom, I'm sorry to say, at least on my side it is. But when you actually say, go ahead and download it, it will download a WebP image that you can actually use.
We can see that.
Huh?
We can see it.
Okay. So, and just download it. So that's how I got the WebP image over here. This is I made a cover block at the top and another standard kind of block down here. This is a JPEG image, and this is the same JPEG image up here. Okay, so I can't, this is a background image, so I can't download it, but just to show, this is save image as, and I can see up here, there's a JPEG, right? Okay, I'm going to cancel, and then I'm going over here to the WebP image, which I can see, which is great on here, and I can actually save image as and verify that it is also a WebP image. So this is something that they added. They said you can upload a WebP image and use it on your site. But for me, there's a problem with this entirely, and it's based on, can I use WebP? And if you're on a PC, you can absolutely see any WebP image because it's baked into Chromium browsers and not Internet Explorer, sorry, Edge, Firefox use WebP images. But as you can see down here, Safari, not so much. And it's not technically Safari, it's technically the operating system that you're using on Apple. It only works on the latest operating system moving forward. I have a client down in Los Angeles who bought a computer a year ago, didn't upgrade his operating system. And if he's using Safari on that computer, he will not be able to see that WebP image. If he's using Chrome, he's going to be able to see it. Using any other browser. This is just an issue with Safari and Apple, the way they work with that. So, and you say, well, what's the percentage on this? Well, it's actually a little low for actually being, I mean, you think about it, 93, I went for the US because I know that there's more Apple products in the United States as there is global. And you can see that's correct here. So 93%, it's good for 93% of the people visiting the website. And you say, well, that's good enough. Why not? And I'll show you why it's not good enough right now. I have a little old Mac Mini hiding in the corner, and it's a hard-working little device. I'm going to remote control into it. Let me get to my So here's my JPEG, right? I am running an old, very old version of this. I say about this Mac. You can see it's 1011 El Capitan. This is a 6-year-old computer at least, and it was running the same operating system because it's a server, and it's a server, you don't mess with it. So, but the JPEGs show fine, right? The same image. So let's take a look at the WebP images here. That's what you get. And to me, there's no fallback to the WebP image. So you get basically a blank hole that says that that image can't be found. And even to add injury to this, you can't even technically see the white text on top of the WebP image, the white background. Now, this will improve over time, but I think there's much, much better ways to handle WebP images than to actually upload a WebP image. I have an old iPad that my wife uses for menus, and she keeps it in the kitchen and pulls up menus. You want to see a picture. If she's using Safari, that version cannot get to the latest version, and so she's just seeing blank holes, in where the the spaghetti should be, that sort of thing. So, and think about it, if you have a WooCommerce site and you put up all WebP images, nobody's going to see anything to your shop page. It's just a bunch of holes in there. Again, I have a client that I said bought a new computer a year ago, and he kept the same operating system because he has a professional Pro Tools editor, and it works. And as they say, if you're making money on a system, you don't necessarily want to update it. You think 20 plugins are a lot in a WordPress website, you say, that's a lot of plugins. He has 200 plugins running on his Pro Tools, and he's not going to actually go through each one and try to figure out, is it going to break if I update to Safari? Because he has a working system. And if he uses Safari for this, it's going to show like this. Now, I can open up Chrome. Chrome is totally fine because, but it's not the default operating system on the Mac. So this is the WebP images on Chrome on that same computer and the JPEG. I've been using WebP images for about 2 years, but I use a tool. I use ShortPixel, which you can upload a JPEG. It'll also recreate a WebP image, and it will display the WebP image to the browsers that can use it. And if it can't, it'll just display the JPEG. That's the fallback.
ShortPixel's great.
Yeah, it is. And there's also Imagify does the same thing. EWW Compress does the same. WP Compress. There's multiple image compression tools that do that. But uploading a WebP image directly doesn't. It doesn't make a JPEG of it and use that as a fallback. Maybe somebody will come up and do that, but that's not.
Are there any shortcomings to the image CDNs like ShortPixel?
What is that? The CDNs?
I didn't mean CDNs, but the ShortPixel image delivery system, or is there any shortcoming to that?
No, I mean, there's I think you were talking about the ShortPixel adaptive images, which is another, you upload an image to ShortPixel servers and it will display an image that you can see.
Which is what you were referring to.
Yes, but even using your ShortPixel, plugin, right on your computer, right on your WordPress website, it'll also do the same thing. Of course, it doubles up the amount of images that you have, and so you have to take up some storage space to do that.
And there's a certain charge depending on how much image space you have. Oddly enough, for those AppSumo addicts out there, EWW's on AppSumo right now, $49 for a lifetime license for 200 gigabytes of monthly traffic on 10 sites.
I'm not sure how long that's going to last.
It's a lifetime.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not so much worried about people going. I'm just worried about how EWW is going to be able to handle that. Anyway, it's a different story.
They've been around a long while.
Yeah. So, are there any questions about this? I mean, I think it's a great idea, but I think it fell short in being able to do this. And it's like all the developers are on PCs. Now you're on a PC, you're going to see the WebP image. This is, again, it's an Apple operating system thing. And I don't think Apple's going to fix it, because why should they? If you come to a site and you get something that looks like this, Who are you going to call? Say it's the website. They're not going to call, they're not going to pick up the phone and yell at WordPress, or they're not going to yell at Apple. They're going to say, hey, I can't see any of your images. And that person may be on a PC, or they may be using Chrome as their default browser. And they say, well, it looks fine over here. Most of my clients, I work with a lot of clients down in LA, just what I would call normal people. They use the default browser, which is Safari. And I asked them, they said, well, do you have Chrome on your computer? And they go, what's that? So that's the kind of level that you have to deal with, so.
The workaround here would be to put a colored background behind the image.
Yeah.
Or use short pixel. That's what I do. I put short pixel on my site.
That's what I've been doing for a couple of years now, and it works great. I just wanted you to be aware of this, that's all.
Yeah.
Because that was a surprise. Anyway, any other questions on this? I'm going to close out the remote desktop here. I get sad when I see that.
We've got Mary Ellen and then Marianne.
The Marys. Yeah, Doug, I'm going to show my ignorance here. What's the big deal with a WebP? I've never heard of it before.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for bringing that up. It's an image format. You're probably used to JPEG images. That's the kind of the image that comes out of a camera, and you see that .jpg at the end, and they're pretty much most of the images you're ever going to see on a website.
And a PNG.
Yeah, PNG also. Yep, that's another one, a PNG file. Yeah, those are two. The nice thing about WebP images, and I do like them, is that it can actually take over the JPEG and take over the PNG. It can support both those different types of files. And it's basically a higher quality image at the same file size, or it's a same quality image with a lower file size when it compares itself to the JPEG. So you can save about approximately 35% in file sizes if you use a WebP image over a JPEG. And everybody likes to optimize their site. It's a great way to do it. And as I said, it does work great, but not only WebP. That's all I was saying in that regard. So it's a file format that for images.
Google puts it out.
Yeah, it's been an open source project for a long time. Yeah. So it's not a JPEG, it's not a PNG, it's a WebP image. And if you take a picture of your camera with your camera, it's going to be a JPEG. You have to convert it to a PNG. You can do that. You can convert the the JPEG into the WebP image. And so the joke is, well, how do I get a WebP image? And you say, well, first thing, start with a JPEG. And then convert it, so, and I wish that, anyway, I don't really hear anything about this, which I kind of was surprised at. I mean, I know it's a small percentage, but it doesn't matter, because if you have a font, let's say, that doesn't load because of some error in the code in there, they're going to still see a font. It may not be the font that you want, but they're still going to be able to read the text. And the idea of WebP images that you just don't see at all. It'd be like, oh, that special font didn't work, so we're just not going to display any text. It doesn't do that. Anyway.
Well, that's a really good warning on the WP images. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I'm sure people would have just thrown them in there and thought, oh, this is great. And
yeah, and it is, I'm not disputing that. I think it's a great idea. I use WebP images, but not the way WordPress, anyway.
And it's possible that I remember back in 2012, I was studying web design. I took this little class with some sort of product that you could do cartoons with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that? It was part of the Photoshop suite, and you could make little cartoons and you could put them on your website.
Flash?
No, it was part of the Photoshop suite, and you put cartoons in your website, but Safari wouldn't load it.
Okay. I wonder if we
Run
can,
away.
yeah, if we can move on, I want to show you very quickly what full site editing could look like coming up in 5.9. If
Okay,
you really
let's
just
see
stick
it.
around. So these are two sites that I did. This is a beta and another beta. There's two betas. I want to start with this one. This is, as you can say, this is TT1, which is the full site editing version of the 2021 theme. Which I know, Marianne, you have used in the past. So I'll show you what it's kind of looking like. If I go into the dashboard, you'll see this big red beta. And yes, it is beta and it is a little wonky. And you can see up here, you are using an experimental full site editing theme. Be aware. In other words, you wouldn't want to use this on a live site. Use it for testing. And a couple of things that are required to get a testing site like this would be you have to activate the Gutenberg plugin, which is all the latest builds of what's going on in Gutenberg. And you have to turn this on. This is a WordPress beta tester plugin. And so when you go up to the dashboard and look for updates, this is a 5.8.2 alpha version, and this is a nightly build for this. And so it's updated to the latest alpha version of the WordPress, and it's using the latest version of Gutenberg, which has elements in it, excuse me, it has blocks in it that you don't have with 5.8. So I look at, and this is a UI thing. If I click on the site editor, this is kind of what the site editor looks like. And you notice up here, it says page home, okay? And this is another area, so it's not terrible, but if I click here, you notice it changed to header. And if you look at the context here, I have a header, I have a column, and here's that site title, right? That block that they had, here's the site tagline underneath. And that's an empty paragraph, which shouldn't be there. But anyway, over here on the column, they have the navigation area. And that's navigation is not in 5.8, this is in 5.9. And we have the various navigation pieces that are involved. And I can scroll all the way down and look at the footer. Again, these are using blocks. And usually these areas, the header and the footer, have been the purview of the theme itself, and you having to go in and get the widgets, so the blocks to put in, and you would have a different area of how to do that, but that's not the way it's currently working. I can click in here, and this is a paragraph, and again, we're putting this in directly into the footer. So, and that's pretty cool. This one is very stable, of all the ones that I've tested. And, it works pretty well. Now, it's a little wonky in regard to, you can see you have more colors available to you. Color palette has changed because there's more capabilities. You can look by block type. These are the global styles you can make. You have a heading, and I say, well, I want my heading to be default to this height, this font weight, various things like that. So you can reset your default. So the idea here is that you have these templates that are set up. There's a theme.json file that you can actually put all the global areas that you want to set up for this, colors, fonts, padding, and things like that. And then you could use that or override it as you need. So they're working hard to get that in. I'm going to show you another area. So anyway, this is kind of what you're looking at coming up. I don't know if this is going to get to 5.9 or not, but I'm going to toggle the navigation. And what in the heck is this? This is their new little editor to get to the various templates. So I'm going to back up to the templates, and I could go into the dashboard, but I'm going to stick it here. So they have all these template parts. Here's a template part. I want to see what the various, and here's the headers, and here's the header. And now I can just edit the header only. I'm not going to go back and do that. It could cause pain anyway. And you have footers. You can have multiple footers. You can have multiple headers, and you could set them up so that they use on certain pages or not. That's part of the goal. We have template parts in the thing. That was where I was before. So you have pages, and this tells you the about page and the home page, and you can see you can make a template for that, and you reuse it at that point as you need. So if I go back to the dashboard, I'm here. And of course, to get back there, it's a hard thing to do. I have to click here and go back. But I want to show you what happens. You saw that actually looks pretty good, right? Let me pull this up to a new page here. I mean, it's a pretty nice looking, all that sort of stuff. So what happens when I change a theme? Well, it could be anything, which is the problem. I'm going to use the Clove theme. Again, I'm looking at themes here that are all full site editing capable. Okay, so activate this theme and let's visit the site. Okay, well, that doesn't look great. And that's probably going to be the case for a lot of these things because they don't necessarily play the same with each other. You know, they have different attitudes as to what they can look at. I don't want to do this because this will break the site. Clove and Block Octane, I'm not even sure what this one does. I haven't tested it, but let's just see what the view site. Yeah, it just wiped out the, doesn't like that page. So it just took it all out. So changing themes is going to be difficult. And anyway, experiencing this is a difficult thing to manage because as you can see, it's not ready. And I want to show one other thing too. If I go to the themes here and I go add new, I say, well, there's this feature filter, which you can use. You say there's 4,200 themes in the WordPress repository. I'm not going to scroll through all of them. I'm just going to take a feature filter, which you can do anytime, and see, well, let's see how many full site editing we have. I'm going to check full site editing to see if the theme has actually registered that. I'm going to apply the filter and say, okay, yeah, here's the ones that I did. I've installed some of these. You can see that's great. How many we got? 16. Only 16 themes in there right now are full site editing capable, and they're still a little buggy. And this is out of 4,200 themes. So they got a long way to go to actually get this up to the point where people can want to use this, because this is a little bit limiting in that regard. Just a little FYI, Automatic purchased a company down in South America called Fontity, and the two main people on it, it was actually an acqui-hire. The two main people on it are experts in React, JavaScript-based themes, and also in user interface design. Both of those things are really tremendously helpful in getting these themes off the ground. And so they just got hired. And hopefully they will be in there like they hopefully should and be able to make some more themes and making some more of this sort of stuff. And so I want to show one quick thing. And this may be, this is a different website because this site is still a beta, but I like this theme. This is called AINO, A-I-N-O. I think that's called, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's this one, okay? And this one is unique because it actually has a plugin, its own plugin for ANO blocks and creative block collection. And of course, we're running Gutenberg and the beta tester here on the same one. But one of the things that it does that I haven't seen before in any theme like this is that if I go into edit the page, and this is stuff that I pulled in and just played with, I'm going to show up over here. If you've been paying, we have grid containers and we have Flexbox, two very specific kind of actions that you can apply to building this out. This is kind of a very hip portfolio theme, and they've been working on this theme for almost 2 years. Think about that and trying to determine, because actually Gutenberg or the block editor has been a ongoing problem in their regard, because they keep on having to make the changes that they thought were going to be in the block editor, and it's not. But if you've played with a grid container, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see lines down here and how they handle this. If I click into this field, if I click into this item here, and I have this grid start and end, you've probably seen this before, but if I go back to 2 and I go back to 12, that gives it a little bit wider look. So this is using CSS Grid and the Flexbox. So it's the first time I've seen this in a theme. And if I actually put a different theme on top of this, you would not see anything, because that wouldn't recognize Flexbox in the grid container. And even that plugin wouldn't recognize it because it is only working with this particular theme.
Well, that's not what the WordPress.org says.
What?
It has the ANO blocks in the WordPress.org. It says it works with any theme.
Okay, well, let's see. I didn't find that, but anyway, let's see. Yep. Let's see, let's change the theme. Well, actually, maybe it was work with TT1. Yeah, you're right. Kind of, it has the content there, but it doesn't appear, it looks very, very different, obviously, because it is a different theme.
Yeah, different thing.
Yeah, okay.
But the-
But I didn't test that one, but if I look at the theme, any of the other themes that we have here, let's go to Octane, which is one. That would be great to actually be able to do it if we visit the site. Yeah, okay. Good to know. I thought it was locked into the theme. So that's, I think, is a great little tool, you know, because you can really do some interesting things with Grid and Flexbox. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about what the site, full site editing will look like. It'll be a little rocky, but I think overall it's going to be a good thing whenever they get it finished. So, and that's kind of all I have here. I just want to touch up a little bit here. If I go back here, there's still media library. We did that. Simple changes to WordPress. You know, my favorite, of course, is the top one. IE 11 is no longer supported by WordPress 5.8. That's a good thing for everybody. You know, should be a round of applause. And most of these, I think I've covered this in everything else. These are some of the other simple things that are there. And if you are a developer, you might be interested in this. These are some of how to build the theme.json, the block.json for some of the newer themes that are coming up. And that is the end of the show. Okay.
So did you mention the? I saw it in your note there, but the media library change for the it doesn't scroll anymore.
Well, you know,
it has the load more now.
Yes, it's a detail. You know, it's something I noticed, but I don't ever use the grid version of you know, those. It's kind of funny. So let me just show you one thing here. Let me get back into, yes, I can leave it. If I go to media, right?
Right.
So here we are in grid mode, and I go down. Now it stopped for whatever reason at 80. At the 5.8, it was originally 40 that only showed. So I don't know how this changed. I didn't change it, or I didn't change it by accident, but you can load more. And I know that if you're on a slow host, that you're going to want this because that would really slow this thing down tremendously. 99.9% of the time stay in this mode.